Hello and welcome to this English lesson. My name is Stuart. In today's lesson, we are looking at how we use as, since, because, and for to show the reason why we do something. Let's go to the intro. Now, as I said before, the objective of today's lesson is to see how we use as, since, because, for to show reason. Now, you're probably familiar with since, for when we use them as a time reference, like I've been here since Friday, or I went to Jamaica for 2 weeks. But here we're using them to show reason, okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is as and since. Then we'll have a look at because, and then we'll have a look at for, okay? Now, the first two, as and since. Now, firstly, I'll explain that as, since, and because are used very, very similarly, okay? We could quite easily put those three into these sentences with no change in meaning. But I'm going to show you a way that we can use these differently in order to give a different sense of what we want to say, okay? Now, the first one is using as or since at the beginning of a sentence. And let's have a look at the examples that we have. As it was getting cold, we decided to go home. As it was getting cold, we decided to go home. We could say since there as well without any problem. Or we could also say we decided to go home because it was getting cold. But we're using as or since at the beginning of the sentences here. The second example, since you know the answer, you can tell the teacher, okay? Since you know the answer, or as you know the answer. And the third example, since Malcolm hasn't shown up, you'll have to give the talk, okay? Now, we use since or as in this sense when the person that we're speaking to knows a little bit about the situation, okay? So we're with different people. They knew that it was a cold day. So as it was getting cold, we decided to go home. More or less, that had been introduced previously. Since Malcolm hasn't shown up, you'll have to give it. So the other person knows that Malcolm isn't there and realizes that that is the case. So we're using as, since, and since again here in order to show reason. Here's the reason clause. Here is the result clause. So as it was getting cold, we decided to go home. The result of it getting cold. Okay? Now, the second example is because. Now, because gives more emphasis to what we're trying to say. Normally, the other person that we're speaking to doesn't have an idea or any previous knowledge of the situation. So we're using because in order to emphasize, as I said before. So let's have a look. Because you didn't arrive on time, I had to give the talk. So we're replying here to Malcolm, or we're talking to Malcolm. Because you didn't arrive on time, I had to give the talk. So Malcolm perhaps doesn't know that I had to give the talk. So I'm stressing that fact that because he didn't show up, I had to give the talk. Okay? The second example, because Sean speaks Spanish, he got a job as a translator. The other person perhaps doesn't know that Sean speaks Spanish, so I'm putting that into the sentence here. So it's because of the fact that he speaks Spanish that he got the job. So because Sean speaks Spanish, he got a job as a translator. Now, we could also substitute these two examples here for since or as, okay? But there's a slight change in the way that we are expressing ourselves, as I have said here before, okay? Now, this sentence here, why are you leaving? Because I'm tired. In this sentence here, we can't substitute because, for, as, or since. But in these two, we could, okay? So if that makes sense. So here we can't, but in these two, we could. So the position of because here means that we can't substitute it for as or since. Now, for can also substitute because, but it's more formal, okay? It's not very used in common speech. Let's have a look at the examples. I decided to go home for I was cold and tired. Quite formal. You wouldn't normally hear people saying that. Normally people would say because, okay? But we can use for. Or this one. She sat and wept for her heart had been broken, okay? So she sat and wept or cried because her heart had been broken or for her heart had been broken. Now, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or any comments, please remember to leave them below. Don't be shy. Also, try to share this video on social media, on your Facebook, on Google+, Twitter, whichever social media you use. Please try to share the video. I'll see you in the next lesson and have a good day. Bye.